Hi everyone, my name is Abisha Parikh and welcome to Immigration Vision. I am an immigration attorney based in New Jersey, and today I'm going to be talking about filling out Form I-130, Petition for Alien Relative. This is the form you would submit if you, the petitioner, are either a U.S. citizen or U.S. permanent resident and you have a qualifying relationship with an alien relative. So, first part here is for USCIS use only. So we can go ahead and skip that and move on to the second part. This would be completed if you have an attorney or accredited representative. So if you do, the attorney would be required to submit a Form G28. So you would click this box and enter their information here. If you do not have an attorney, you can skip this part and move on to part 1. Part 1, relationship. So in this case, you, the U.S. resident, are the petitioner and your relative is the beneficiary. So in this case, let's see what the qualifying relationship would be. Number 1, I am filing this petition for my spouse, parent, brother, sister, child. So for the purposes of this example, we're going to assume that our petitioner is filing for their spouse. Number 2, if you're filing this petition for your child or parent, select the box that describes your relationship. Since we're applying for a spouse here, none of these would apply, so we can go ahead and skip this. If you are applying for a child or a parent, you would have to select one of these boxes. Number 3, if the beneficiary is your brother, sister, are you related by adoption? Since this does not apply to our case here, since our petitioner is applying for his spouse, we would skip number 3. Number 4, did you gain permanent resident status or citizenship through adoption? So you would have to select yes or no. In this case, our petitioner did not, so we're going to hit no. Part 2, information about you, the petitioner. Again, that's the U.S. citizen or U.S. permanent resident filling this form out. Number 1, alien registration number, a number. Your alien number can be found on the front of your green card. If you're a U.S. citizen who has been naturalized into the U.S., the alien number would be at the top right hand of your certificate. If you were born in the U.S. and are a natural-born citizen, you can disregard this part as you would not have an alien number. Number 2, USCIS online account number. Sometimes people prefer to fill their forms out and submit them online, so if you do have a USCIS account number, you can fill it out here. Otherwise, you can leave it blank. Number 3, U.S. Social Security number. If you are a U.S. permanent resident or U.S. citizen, you would have a Social Security number, which you can enter here. So for the purpose of this example, our petitioner's name is Ravi Patel. So when I'm typing in the I-130 form, I prefer to use all caps. So we'll enter the last name and then the first name. If our petitioner had a middle name, we would enter it here, but in this case, he does not, so we leave it blank. Moving on to page 2. Here, this page also continues with information about you, the petitioner. In this box, 5A through 5C, if you've ever had any other names, including maiden names, nicknames, and aliases, you would enter it here. Our petitioner has never used any other name, so we would leave it blank. Other information, number 6. This is where you would enter the petitioner's date of birth, place of birth, and gender. So we will say that our petitioner was born in New York in the USA. And for purposes of this example, the petitioner's date of birth is January 1st, 1990. And he is a male. Mailing address. This is where you would enter the address that you want all of your documents mailed to. This can be different than your physical address. So for example, if you would like all the notices and all of the physical cards mailed to a different address than the physical address, then you would go ahead and enter that address here. So in 10A, in care of, we will enter the name of the petitioner and then the address we want all of the mail being sent to. So we will just put a New York address here, 100 West 89th Street, apartment 20B. The city will be New York. The state will also be New York. And the zip code will be 10002. Here, the province would not apply since this is a U.S. address, and neither would the postal code. These are for foreign addresses only. And the country is USA. In 11, you would indicate whether your mailing address is the same as your current physical address. So here, it is yes, but if it was no, you would enter your physical address in 12A through 13B. Now, moving on to the petitioner's physical address history. So before the petitioner moved to his current address, he used to previously live in New Jersey. So we'll just go ahead and enter that address. Okay, so I've just entered a sample Jersey City address. I'm not even sure if this is a zip code, but this is just to show you how you would enter in your address history. And so USCIS wants your physical address history for the last 5 years. So the petitioner moved to this address on January 1st, 2013, and he lived there till December 31st, 2018. And he's been at the current New York address from January 1st, 2019 onwards. Okay. Your marital information, number 16. How many times has the petitioner been married? So for this example, 1. Current marital status. So since he's applying for a spouse, he's obviously currently married. If you were divorced, widowed, separated, annulled, and single, it would be applicable if you were applying for your siblings, children, or your parents, and you would indicate accordingly. Date of current marriage. So for the purposes of the example, we'll have their date of marriage be January 1st, 2020. Where did they get married? So Mr. Patel's spouse lives abroad, so we would show that he traveled to get married to his spouse and then returned back to the U.S. to file Form I-130 for a consular process. So we can show that he got married in Mumbai, Maharashtra, in India. Here, the state wouldn't apply because the drop-down menu is for U.S. states only. So if your marriage took place in the United States, you wouldn't enter a province, but simply a state here. Name of all of your spouses. So this information is a continuation of your marital history. Provide information on all your current spouse, if currently married, first, and then list all your prior spouses. For purposes of this example, the name of Mr. Patel's spouse is Pooja Patel. So we'll go ahead and enter her last name, her first name, and again, she has no middle name, but if your spouse does, you would enter it here. Since Pooja and Ravi are currently married, number 21 would not apply, date that the marriage ended, since this is a current marriage. If your petitioner had a previous spouse, you would enter that information here and indicate the date that the marriage ended. Moving on, information about your parents. Parent 1's information, full name of parent 1. Here you're entering the information about the petitioner's mother and father. So go ahead and enter the last name, Patel, and the father's first name. Again, person does not have a middle name. Date of birth, January 1st, 1965. He is a male. Country of birth, India. And he currently resides in New Jersey. So we'll put the city and the country of residence, which is USA. Parent 2's information. Here in 30A, you would indicate the second parent's information. So in this case, it would be Mr. Patel's mother's information. Patel. Oops. Again, no middle name for her. Date of birth. Her gender. Country of birth. And where she currently lives. Now, additional information about you, the petitioner. Number 36. I am a U.S. citizen, or if you're a lawful permanent resident, you would indicate that in this box. If you're a U.S. citizen, complete item 37. My citizenship was acquired through, select only one box. So Mr. Patel was born in the United States. However, if Ravi was naturalized, he would have to complete the following items. Number 38, have you obtained a certificate of naturalization or certificate of citizenship? Here, the answer would be no. If Mr. Patel was naturalized, you would indicate the certificate number, which again can be found on the top right-hand corner of your naturalization certificate, place of issuance, and the date of issuance, which are all available on the certificate itself. If you are not a citizen and a lawful permanent resident, you would skip this entire section and answer questions 48 onwards. So if you are a lawful permanent resident, please complete items 40A to 41. So in 40A, you would indicate your class of admission, which would be indicated on the front of your green card, date of admission, which would be indicated on the green card as well, place of admission, so where did you first enter the U.S. as a green card holder, and the state. 41. Did you gain lawful permanent resident status through marriage to a U.S. citizen or a lawful permanent resident? You would indicate yes or no. Employment history. Provide your employment history for the last 5 years, whether inside or outside the United States. Provide your current employment first. If you are currently unemployed, please type or print unemployed in item number 42. So for this example, we'll say that Mr. Patel works for my firm. So the employer is law office, Bisha Parikh. The address is 1433 Oak Tree Road. Again, the province and the postal code would not apply here since this is a U.S. address. And Mr. Patel is a paralegal. And he started working here on January 1st, 2015. Since this includes his 5-year employment history, you can skip over employer 2 information. However, if the petitioner has 2 jobs at once or had previous employment in the last 5 years, you would indicate it here. If all of your employment history does not fit within the given area, you can always go down to the last page of the form in additional information and indicate the page number, part number, item number, and list out the history here, whether it's your address history or employment history. So we'll just go back here. So we left off at part 3, biographic information. Note, provide the biographic information about you, the petitioner. So again, this is still about Mr. Patel. Number 1, ethnicity. Select only one box. Hispanic or Latino, not Hispanic or Latino, so please indicate accordingly. Race, select all applicable boxes. So here, Mr. Patel is from an Asian descent. Height is 6 feet, and he weighs 200 pounds. Eye color, select only one box. Hair color, select only one box. Part 4, information about beneficiary. So from this point onwards, all of the information that you provide on this form will be about the foreign alien that you are applying for. So in this case, Mr. Patel will fill the information out for his spouse. Since his spouse, Pooja, lives in India, she does not have an alien registration number, USCIS account number, nor does she have a U.S. Social Security number because she has never been to the U.S. Here in beneficiary's full name, go ahead and enter the name of the person you are applying for. In this next field, provide all other names the beneficiary has ever used, including aliases, maiden name, and nicknames. So here, you would enter all the names the beneficiary has had. Here, Pooja has only used one name her entire life, so we would go ahead and leave this blank. Other information about the beneficiary. So here you would enter the beneficiary's place of birth, date of birth, and gender. So she was born in Mumbai, in India, and her date of birth is January 1st, 1991. And she is a female. Number 10, has anyone else ever filed a petition for this beneficiary? So here, has anyone applied a form I-130, or it could be a form I-140 for the beneficiary? So you would indicate yes, no, or unknown. Here is the note. Select unknown only if you do not know, and the beneficiary also does not know. if anyone else has filed a petition for the beneficiary. So make sure you ask the beneficiary if they know of any filed petitions in the past. For the case of our example, no one has filed a petition for the beneficiary. If the beneficiary lives outside the United States in a home without a street number or name, leave items 11A and 11B blank. So the beneficiary's physical address is 24 A Street. The city is Mumbai. And here, because this is a foreign address, we would not use 11D and 11E, but rather enter the province and the postal code. And the country. I believe there's an extra number here. So Indian postal codes have 6 numbers. Other addresses and contact information. Provide the address in the United States where the beneficiary intends to live, if different from item numbers 11A through 11H. If the address is the same, type or print same in item number 12A. So, since the U.S. address where Pooja plans to live is different than the foreign address here, currently her address is in Mumbai, India, but she plans on living with her spouse, Mr. Patel, in New York City. So we'll go ahead and enter his current address. Next, provide the beneficiary's address outside the United States, if different from item numbers 11A through 11H. If the address is the same, type or print same in item numbers 13A. So here, the beneficiary's foreign address is this India address. So we would just type same in this box and then skip items 13B to 13F. However, we will provide a telephone number here. So we would enter the country code. All right. And then if she has a mobile number, you can enter it here. And then an email address. So for the purposes of this, we will just put her email address as ppatel1191@gmail.com. Beneficiary's marital information. How many times has the beneficiary been married? So here, Pooja has been married only once, so you would indicate that in this box. Number 18, current marital status would be married. And the date of current marriage would be January 1st, 2020. Place of the beneficiary's current marriage, which is the same as the information we had put in earlier about the petitioner's marriage. So it would be in Mumbai. State would not apply here since this took place in a foreign country. Name of the beneficiary's spouses. Please provide information on the beneficiary's current spouse, if currently married, first, and then list all the beneficiary's prior spouses, if any. So here, Pooja's only been married once, so we'll go ahead and enter the petitioner's information. Here, the marriage is still ongoing, so 22 would not apply. If the beneficiary has been married more than once, you would indicate that in the spaces provided here. Now, information about the beneficiary's family. Provide information about the beneficiary's spouse and add children. So, this may seem redundant, but we will have to put in the petitioner spouse's information again here. So we start with the spouse, Ravi Patel, no middle name, date of birth, and the country of birth. Now, if Pooja had children, you would enter that information in the following boxes under person 2 and person 3. Here, Pooja has no children. So we can skip on through to beneficiaries entry information. Number 45, was the beneficiary ever in the United States? So here, Pooja has not visited the United States. Mr. Patel and her met in India when he traveled there, so we would indicate no. However, if you're applying for an adjustment of status, or your spouse currently lives here and you still plan on filing a consular process because they will be moving back to their foreign country later on, you would indicate yes. And then if the beneficiary is currently in the US, which is most likely the case if you're applying for an adjustment of status, complete items number 46A to 46D. So here you would indicate their class of arrival, their Form I-94 arrival departure record number. If you do not know where to locate your I-94 number, it's actually available electronically on the Department of Homeland's website, which once you open the I-94, it will have your date of arrival. It would also state the date of authorized stay in the US. So all that information can be found on the I-90 form. Number 47, passport number. So again, you would enter the passport information here. Even though Pooja has never come to the US, she does have a passport number. We would just go ahead and enter that here. Number 48, travel document number. Since we already entered a passport number, she has no other travel document, so we will skip number 48. Country of issuance for passport is India. And what is the expiration date for the passport or travel document? So here it's December 31st, 2025. In this box, you would indicate the beneficiary's employment information. So provide the beneficiary's current employment information, if applicable, even if they are employed outside of the United States. If the beneficiary is currently unemployed, type or print unemployed in item number 51A. So here, Mr. Patel's spouse, Pooja, is currently still a student, so we would indicate that she is currently unemployed. We move on to additional information about the beneficiary. Number 53. Was the beneficiary ever in immigration proceedings? Since Pooja has never been to the US, we would indicate no. But if your spouse has been, you would indicate yes. If you answered yes, you would select the type of proceedings and provide the location and date of the proceedings in the following boxes. Part 4 is a continuation about the information about beneficiary. If the beneficiary's native written language does not use Roman letters, type or print his or her name and foreign address in the native written language. Here, this is not applicable, so we would just write NA and leave this blank. If filing for your spouse, provide the last address at which you physically lived together. If you never lived together, type or print never lived together in item number 59A. So if you are applying for a spouse and you both have lived together or started to live together recently, you would indicate the address that you live together, the date it started, and if you're currently still living there, you would write present here. Here, since the petitioner lives in the US and Pooja's in India, they have never lived together, so we would indicate that here. Moving on. The beneficiary is in the US and will apply for adjustment of status to that of a lawful permanent resident at the USCIS office in. If you're applying for an adjustment of status, you would indicate the city and state that has jurisdiction over your case. So for example, I'm located in Edison, New Jersey. So cases that are filed with a physical location in Edison, New Jersey would go to the Newark office in New Jersey. But here, Pooja lives abroad, so the beneficiary will not apply for adjustment of status in the United States, but she will apply for an immigrant visa abroad at the U.S. Embassy or U.S. Consulate in. So since she's in Mumbai, the consulate that has jurisdiction is Mumbai, Maharashtra, and the country is India. Okay. Part 5, Other Information. Have you ever previously filed a petition for this beneficiary or any other alien? So if you filed an I-130 form for anyone else previously, you would indicate that here. Here, Mr. Patel has actually filed a petition for his sister. So we would go ahead and enter that information here. So if you entered yes, please provide the name, place, the date of filing, and the result. So we would enter the sister's name, where was the application filed? So he filed from Newark, New Jersey. He filed on January 1st, 2010. And the application was approved. If you're also submitting separate petitions for other relatives, provide the names of and your relationship to each relative. So if you're applying for example, a child that you had with the US citizen or a stepchild, you would have to file a separate I-130 form since you are a US citizen, and you would have to indicate the name and the relationship for each relative you are filing for. Here, USCIS provides a warning that USCIS investigates the claimed relationships and verifies the validity of documents you submit. If you falsify a family relationship to obtain a visa, USCIS may seek to have you criminally prosecuted. And the penalties that would be applicable by law, you may be imposed for up to 5 years or fined $250,000 or both for entering into a marriage contract in order to evade any U.S. immigration law. In addition, you may be fined up to $10,000 and imprisoned for up to 5 years or both for knowingly and willfully falsifying or concealing a material fact or using any false document in submitting this petition. So just so you know, immigration fraud is a crime, and the warning and penalties are laid out here in the form itself. Part 6, Petitioner's Statement, Contact Information, Declaration, and Signature. So here you would indicate one of the following boxes. Here, Mr. Patel states that I can read and understand English, and I have read and understand every question and instructions on this petition and my answer to every question. If Mr. Patel needed an interpreter, he would indicate 1B, and the interpreter would have to indicate in what language they've read all of the form to the petitioner. If you have an attorney in this case, you would hit number 2. At my request, the preparer named in blank prepared this form for me based only upon the information I approved or authorized. Enter the petitioner's contact information here. And an email address that you can be contacted on. Please read the petitioner's declaration and certification before you go ahead and sign in Part 6A here and date the form. Here, USCIS advises, note to all petitioners, if you do not completely fill out this petition or fail to submit required documents listed in the instructions, USCIS may deny your petition. So when you're filling I-130 out, please read the instructions for any and all portions of the form that you have to fill out and all of the supporting documentation that must be submitted. For example, if Mr. Patel is filing for his wife Pooja and fails to send in the marriage certificate, his petition could potentially be denied by USCIS. In Part 7, if Mr. Patel needed an interpreter, that interpreter's contact information would have to be entered here in Part 7. If someone helped Mr. Patel prepare the form, for example, an attorney, the attorney's information would have to go here as the preparer. And they would have to indicate whether I am not an attorney or I am an attorney and sign accordingly. The last part of this form is Part 9, the additional information. So as I mentioned previously, if you need additional space to enter your address history or your employment history, or you need to attach any additional information that you couldn't fit into the form space provided above, you can go ahead and include all that additional information in Part 9. Make sure you indicate and reference back the page number, part number, and the item number, and try to follow the same format that the question provided earlier in the form. If you're filling out Form I-130 for a spouse, you also have to fill out Form I-130A. So make sure you fill out I-130A along with I-130 with your submission. I hope you found this tutorial helpful. If you found it helpful and would like more videos related to filling out immigration forms, please leave me a like below and hit subscribe onto my page. Thank you and have a great day.